I've been avoiding home invasion stories because they represent our most primal fear, being attacked in the one place we should feel safest. But these 3 submissions contain critical survival lessons that could save lives, so I couldn't keep them to myself any longer. Your home is your sanctuary, the place where you're supposed to let your guard down and feel completely secure. When that sanctuary is violated by someone breaking in with violent intent, it destroys something fundamental in your sense of safety. The psychological trauma can last far longer than any physical injuries. Tonight's 3 stories come from survivors who made split-second decisions that saved their lives. Their experiences contain crucial information about home security, situational awareness, and survival instincts that everyone should know. These stories are difficult to hear, but they could be the difference between life and death. This story comes from Claire, a 38-year-old real estate agent who lives with her husband Greg in a suburban neighborhood outside Atlanta. They thought their security system and gated community would keep them safe until the night someone proved them wrong. Greg and I had lived in our house for 6 years without any security issues. Our neighborhood was quiet, family-oriented, with an HOA and a security gate that required a code. We had a basic alarm system, outdoor cameras, and solid locks. We felt safe. On a Tuesday night in September, Greg was out of town for a work conference. I was home alone, which wasn't unusual. He traveled frequently for his job. I'd gotten used to being by myself, and our security setup made me feel comfortable. I went to bed around 11 p.m., armed the security system like always, and fell asleep reading. Around 2:30 a.m., I was awakened by a sound I'd never heard before, the piercing shriek of our alarm system combined with the sound of breaking glass. Someone had smashed through our back sliding door. My training from a self-defense class I'd taken years earlier kicked in immediately. I didn't freeze, didn't waste time trying to figure out what was happening. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and ran to our master bathroom, locking the door behind me. Our bathroom had a feature that many people don't think about, but that saved my life that night. A second, reinforced door that led to what the previous owners had called a safe room. It was really just a large walk-in closet with extra strong locks, but it had been designed as a secure space in case of emergency. I locked myself in the safe room, called 911, and whispered my address to the dispatcher. I could hear footsteps in our bedroom, searching, opening drawers, throwing things. The intruder was looking for valuables, but I knew that if he found me, this could become much worse than a robbery. "There's someone in my house," I whispered to the 911 operator. "I'm locked in the safe room. Please hurry. Officers are 2 minutes away," she assured me. "Stay on the line with me. Don't make any noise." I could hear the intruder trying the bathroom door, rattling the handle. Then I heard him kick it, and the door frame splintered. He was inside the bathroom now, just feet away from where I was hiding. "I know you're in here," he called out, and his voice was calm, almost conversational, which somehow made it more terrifying. "I'm not going to hurt you. I just want your jewelry and cash. Make this easy." I didn't respond. I stayed completely silent, barely breathing, clutching my phone. He tried the safe room door, but it held. These weren't standard residential locks. They were commercial grade, designed to withstand serious force. He kicked the door repeatedly, but it didn't budge. "Open the door," he said, no longer calm. "Open it now, or I'll make this worse for you." I could hear sirens in the distance, getting closer. The intruder heard them too. He kicked the door one more time, hard enough that I felt the vibration through the wall. Then I heard him run. Footsteps racing through the bedroom, down the hallway, and out the broken back door. The police arrived less than a minute later. They found the intruder's car, abandoned at the end of our street. He'd fled on foot through the neighborhood. They eventually caught him 3 hours later, trying to break into another house 2 miles away. During his interrogation, he admitted he'd been watching our house for weeks. He knew Greg traveled for work. He knew my routine. He'd figured out our alarm company and had purchased a jamming device to disable it. But it had only partially worked. The glass break sensor still triggered. He'd planned to rob us while I slept, but when the alarm went off, his plan changed. He decided to find me, to force me to show him where the valuables were. If I'd been anywhere other than that locked safe room, I don't know what would have happened. The police told me later that this wasn't his first home invasion. He'd committed 3 others in nearby neighborhoods, and in 2 of those cases, he'd assaulted the homeowners when they confronted him. I was lucky I'd had a secure place to hide, and that police response was so quick. After that night, Greg and I made significant changes to our security. We upgraded to a monitored system with cellular backup that can't be jammed. We reinforced all our doors and installed security film on the windows. We added motion sensor lights around the entire perimeter of the house. But the most important change was psychological. I learned that feeling safe isn't the same as being safe. Our gated community, our alarm system, our quiet neighborhood, none of that actually prevented someone determined from targeting us. The safe room saved my life, but so did my decision to immediately run and hide rather than investigate the noise or try to confront the intruder. Every self-defense expert will tell you the same thing. If someone breaks into your occupied home, your priority is escape or secure hiding, never confrontation. I share this story because I want people to understand that home invasions can happen anywhere, to anyone, regardless of how safe your neighborhood seems. But I also want people to know that preparation and quick thinking can save your life. If you don't have a safe room, identify a space in your home that could serve that purpose. A bathroom with a strong lock, a closet with a reinforced door, anywhere you can secure yourself and call for help. Keep your phone charged and near you at night. Have a plan for what you'd do if someone broke in. And most importantly, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, if you hear something that doesn't belong, don't investigate. Secure yourself, call for help, and let professionals handle it. That night taught me that home security isn't just about systems and locks. It's about having a plan, knowing what to do in those critical seconds when everything goes wrong, and understanding that survival sometimes means hiding rather than fighting. This story comes from Trevor, a 41-year-old single father raising his 2 sons, ages 8 and 11, in a small house in rural Pennsylvania. He learned that protecting your children in a home invasion requires impossible decisions made in split seconds. Being a single dad means you're everything to your kids, their protector, their provider, their safe person. That responsibility weighs on you constantly, but never more than the night 3 men broke into our home while my boys were sleeping. It was a Friday in January, bitterly cold outside. My sons, Mason and Lucas, were asleep in their shared bedroom. I'd fallen asleep on the couch watching TV around midnight, which probably saved our lives because I was downstairs when they broke in. I woke up to the sound of our back door being kicked in. The door frame splintered, the lock broke, and 3 men came through into our kitchen. I could see them from where I lay on the couch. They were wearing hoodies and masks, carrying bags. My first thought was my boys upstairs. My second thought was that I couldn't let these men get to my sons. I had seconds to make a decision. I could run upstairs to barricade us in a bedroom, but that would lead the intruders directly to my children. I could try to sneak out and call police from outside, but that meant leaving my boys alone in the house with these men. Or I could draw their attention to me, keep them focused on the first floor, and hope the police would arrive before they decided to search the second floor. I chose option 3. I sat up on the couch and turned on the lamp next to me. "You guys need to leave," I said loudly, trying to sound confident despite the terror I felt. I've already called the police. I hadn't called anyone. My phone was charging upstairs in my bedroom, but I needed them to think help was coming. The three men froze when they saw me. Then one of them, the largest, stepped forward. "Where's your wallet? Your car keys? Electronics?" "Take whatever you want," I said. "It's all down here. Just take it and go." I was trying to keep them engaged with me, away from the staircase that led to my sleeping children. Every second they spent talking to me was a second they weren't going upstairs. "Stand up," the man ordered. "Show us where everything is." I stood slowly, moving away from the staircase, leading them deeper into the first floor. I showed them my wallet on the kitchen counter, my laptop on the desk, my car keys hanging by the door. They weren't satisfied. "You got a safe? Jewelry? Cash?" "No safe," I lied. "We had a small safe in my bedroom closet with important documents and some emergency cash." "I don't keep cash in the house." That's when I heard the worst sound imaginable. Lucas's voice from upstairs. "Dad, what's going on?" One of the intruders immediately looked toward the staircase. "You got kids up there?" Every parent knows that moment when their greatest fear crystallizes into reality. These men now knew my children were upstairs, vulnerable, and I was between them and my boys. "My sons are up there," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Please, take everything down here and leave. They're just kids. Don't go up there." The large man looked at his companions, and I saw them having a silent conversation. I was terrified they were deciding whether to rob the second floor, whether to go up and threaten my children to force me to give them more. "Dad?" Lucas called again, and I could hear fear in his voice now. "Stay in your room," I shouted up the stairs. "Lock your door and don't come out." I heard Lucas's door close and the lock click. At least they were secured in their room, even if the lock wouldn't stop a determined adult. The three men were backing toward the door now, stuffing my laptop and wallet into their bags. But the large one hadn't taken his eyes off the staircase. "Please," I said again, "you got what you wanted. Just go." That's when I heard sirens in the distance. We live in a rural area where neighbors are spread out, but apparently someone had heard the door being kicked in or seen flashlights in my windows and called police. The intruders heard the sirens too and made their decision. They ran out the broken back door into the darkness, leaving me standing in my living room, shaking with adrenaline and relief. I ran upstairs and found both my boys barricaded in their bedroom, terrified but unharmed. Mason had been smart enough to call 911 from his tablet when he heard the commotion, which was why police had arrived so quickly. The police never caught all three intruders, but they did recover my stolen property from a pawn shop and arrested one of the men based on DNA evidence he'd left at the scene. During his interview, he told police something that still makes me feel sick. He said they'd been planning to go upstairs to make sure there wasn't anything valuable in the bedrooms. The only reason they didn't was because I'd kept engaging with them downstairs and because the police sirens scared them off. If I'd run upstairs immediately, they would have followed me to my children. If I'd tried to hide, they would have searched the whole house. By making myself visible and cooperative, by drawing their attention and satisfying them with easy targets on the first floor, I'd inadvertently protected my sons from a direct confrontation with these men. After that night, I made significant changes. I installed a security system with loud sirens. I reinforced all our doors and windows. I taught my boys what to do if they ever heard something wrong: lock their door, call 911 from the tablet I bought for their room, and don't come out for anyone except me or the police. But the most important lesson I learned was about the impossible choices parents face when their home is invaded. Every security expert will tell you not to confront intruders, to hide and call for help. But when your children are in the house, those rules change. I had to calculate in split seconds whether drawing attention to myself would protect or endanger my boys. I had to decide whether to stay visible or hide, whether to comply or resist, whether to provoke or placate. There's no handbook for those decisions. There's just your instinct, your love for your children, and your desperate hope that whatever you choose will keep them safe. I share this story because I want other parents to think about these scenarios before they happen. Have a plan. Make sure your kids know what to do. Install security systems that alert you before someone gets inside. But most importantly, understand that protecting your children in a home invasion isn't about being brave or confronting the intruders. It's about being smart, making them think they've gotten what they want, and keeping them away from your kids by any means necessary. My boys are teenagers now, and they still sometimes have nightmares about that night. So do I, but we survived because I made the right choices in those critical moments, and because Mason was smart enough to call for help. Home invasions are about more than losing property. When you have children in the house, they're about protecting innocent lives who depend on you completely. That's a responsibility that can't be secured by locks alone. It requires planning, preparation, and the willingness to make impossible choices in seconds. Our final story comes from Jasmine, a 26-year-old graphic designer who lived with her roommate Nicole in an apartment complex in Phoenix, Arizona. They learned that surviving a home invasion sometimes means making decisions that seem cruel, but that save lives. Nicole and I had been roommates for 2 years, and we developed a routine that worked well for both of us. We were both young professionals, worked different schedules, respected each other's space. We lived in a decent apartment complex with secured entry, cameras in hallways, and on-site security. We felt reasonably safe, though like most young women living in a city, we took basic precautions, kept doors locked, didn't open for strangers, checked peepholes before answering. What we didn't expect was that someone could bypass all our building security and target our specific unit on a Saturday night in November. Nicole and I had been out with friends and got home around 11 p.m. We were both tired, said goodnight, and went to our separate bedrooms. My room was at the end of the hallway. Nicole's was closer to the living room and front door. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to Nicole screaming. Not the kind of scream you hear in movies. This was real terror, primal fear, the sound of someone facing immediate danger. I jumped out of bed and ran to my door, my hand on the handle, ready to burst out and help her. But then I heard a man's voice. "Shut up, or I'll kill you right now." I froze with my hand on the door, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Every instinct screamed at me to run out there, to help Nicole, to do something. But I remembered something from a self-defense seminar Nicole and I had attended together 6 months earlier. The instructor had said something that seemed harsh at the time. If you live with roommates and you hear them being attacked, your first priority is not rescue, it's survival. Call 911, secure yourself, and don't open your door unless you're certain it's safe. Two victims don't help each other. I hated that advice in the moment. Every fiber of my being wanted to help Nicole. But I also knew that bursting out of my room, unarmed against someone who'd already threatened to kill, would likely result in 2 victims instead of 1. I locked my bedroom door as quietly as possible, grabbed my phone, and called 911. I whispered into the phone, "Someone broke into our apartment. He has my roommate. Please help." The dispatcher asked for our address, asked if I was safe. I told her I was locked in my bedroom, but my roommate was with the intruder in the living room. She told me to stay where I was, stay quiet, and keep the line open. Through my door, I could hear the intruder demanding things from Nicole. "Where's the money? Where's your roommate? How many people live here?" Nicole was crying but trying to answer. She told him there was cash in her purse, that I worked nights and wasn't home, that it was just the 2 of us in the apartment. She was lying to protect me, giving him a reason to think the apartment was clear except for her. She was being incredibly brave. The intruder spent what felt like hours, but was probably only 10 minutes ransacking our living room, searching for valuables. I could hear furniture moving, drawers opening, things crashing. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway, approaching my room. He was checking the bedrooms. He tried my door handle, locked. "You said your roommate works nights," he said to Nicole. "So why is this door locked?" "She locks it even when she's gone," Nicole said quickly. "She's paranoid about people going in her room." The intruder kicked my door hard. The frame held, but barely. He kicked it again, and I heard wood splintering. I backed into my closet, closing myself in, holding my phone, listening to the 911 dispatcher whisper that police were 2 minutes away. One more kick and my door burst open. I could hear him walking through my room, searching. I pressed myself against the back of the closet, trying not to breathe, knowing that if he opened the closet door, I had nowhere left to go. "There's nothing in here worth taking," I heard Nicole say from the hallway. "Please, you got everything. Just leave." The intruder walked back out of my room. I heard him say something to Nicole. I couldn't make out. Then I heard our front door open and close. Silence. I waited, phone still connected to 911, barely breathing. The dispatcher was telling me police were entering the building. Finally, I heard police voices, calling for anyone in the apartment to identify themselves. I came out of the closet, unlocked what remained of my door, and found 2 officers in the hallway. Nicole was sitting on the couch, shaken but physically unharmed. The intruder had taken our laptops, our phones, which we'd left in the living room, cash, and jewelry, but he hadn't hurt her beyond some minor bruising where he'd grabbed her arm. Later, after police had taken our statements and the apartment was secured, Nicole and I talked about what had happened. "Why didn't you come help me?" she asked, and I could hear she wasn't accusing me. She genuinely wanted to understand. I told her about the self-defense seminar advice, about how calling 911 immediately and staying hidden meant help arrived before things escalated further. I told her that if I'd come out, he would have had 2 hostages instead of 1, and the situation could have become much worse. "You were protecting both of us," she said after a long pause. "By staying hidden and calling police, you probably saved my life. If he'd known you were here, if he'd had to deal with 2 of us, he might have panicked." The police told us later that our intruder had broken into 3 other apartments in the complex that night, using a master key he'd stolen from maintenance. In one of those apartments, a roommate had tried to physically intervene, and both residents had been seriously injured. By following the protocol we'd learned, secure yourself, call for help, don't engage, we'd both survived with minimal harm. But I'll never forget the guilt I felt standing behind that locked door while Nicole was in danger. I'll never forget the sound of her screaming and my instinct to run to her, fighting against the knowledge that doing so would help neither of us. The seminar instructor's harsh advice had been right. In a home invasion with roommates or family, your first responsibility is to secure yourself and call for help. You can't help someone else if you're also a victim. We moved out of that apartment complex 2 weeks later and found a place with better security. We installed additional locks on our bedroom doors. We made an agreement that if either of us was ever in danger, the other would follow the protocol. Lock door, call 911. Don't try to be a hero. It's a brutal calculation, but it's the one that keeps people alive. Help each other by getting professional help, not by engaging with armed intruders. I share this story because I want people to understand that surviving a home invasion isn't about being brave or confronting the threat. It's about making smart decisions in seconds, even when those decisions feel cruel. If someone breaks into your home while you're there with family or roommates, your priorities are: secure yourself if possible, call 911, immediately stay hidden and quiet. Don't engage unless you have absolutely no choice. The guilt of not helping someone you care about is real and painful. But being alive to feel that guilt is better than the alternative. Nicole and I are still roommates, and we're still friends. We survived because we both made smart decisions. She protected me by lying about where I was, and I protected both of us by calling for help instead of trying to be a hero. Sometimes survival isn't about courage. It's about following the protocol, trusting that help is coming, and accepting that the best way to help someone in danger is to make sure professional help arrives as fast as possible. These 3 stories remind us that home invasions are about split-second decisions made under extreme stress. Claire's decision to run to her safe room, Trevor's choice to keep intruders focused on him and away from his children, and Jasmine's difficult choice to call for help rather than try to rescue her roommate. All of these decisions saved lives. The most important lessons from these stories: have a plan before it happens. Know where you'll go, how you'll call for help, what you'll do if you can't escape. Invest in real security, reinforced doors, quality locks, monitored alarm systems, and if possible, a safe room or secure space. Never confront an intruder if you can avoid it. Your life is worth more than any property they might take. If you have children, teach them what to do. Make sure they can call 911, lock their doors, and know to stay hidden. If you live with roommates or family, establish protocols for emergencies. Everyone should know that the priority is calling for help, not confrontation. And most importantly, trust your survival instincts. If running seems right, run. If hiding seems right, hide. If complying seems right, comply. There's no universal right answer. There's only the decision that keeps you alive. These survivors shared their stories not to frighten you, but to educate you. Home invasions are rare, but real, and preparation can mean the difference between tragedy and survival. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember that your home security starts with planning, continues with prevention, and succeeds when you know exactly what to do in those critical seconds when everything goes wrong. Thank you for listening to these difficult but important stories.